I'm a huge Little Nightmares fan. My YouTube banner is full of Little Nightmares gnomes doing various antics. I've played 1 and its DLC a handful of times, and I've got over 300 hours in Little Nightmares 2 from doing speedruns and looking at the beautifully crafted game from every angle. I still listen to Prison Toys and the LN1 DLC credits song, and so much of the soundtrack is amazing. Obviously, I like 2 best and consider it a huge step up from 1 in terms of mechanics, puzzles, boss enemy variety, and how memorable they were. 2 even improved on the movement of the game. To me, the series went from good to great, and the hope of an eventual DLC or sequel was thrilling. There were doubts when Tarsier Studios lost the rights to the series, but I was still hyped to see Supermassive picking up the reins. The trailer had some red flags, with the game looking suspiciously like LN2 with a new coat of paint, and umbrellas being the only noticeable new mechanic. And don't say Lowe's bow is a new mechanic, we'll talk about that later. But I looked past everything questionable because it honestly didn't need a bunch of new mechanics to be great. Anything on par with 2 would make me happy. During LN3's year-long delay, however, the original creators, Tarsier Studios, announced Reanimal, which did look like the next evolution of Little Nightmares on the same level as the jump from 1 to 2, reminding me that there was no reason LN3 couldn't also be showing something new. I ignored any bad vibes though and simply got my hopes real high that LN3 would be amazing and capture the same atmosphere and feeling as 1 and 2. So high that when they came crashing down as I played it and later reflected on the game, I decided to make this critique video. This isn't what I normally do. I usually just don't make videos on games if I didn't enjoy them, but not this time. 4 years later, I'm pissed off that I was excited for more. Little Nightmares 3 spends its 5-hour runtime reusing the least interesting mechanics of 2, moving between bad guys far less compelling than even 1, filling empty space with puzzles that can only be called puzzles because I think that's what they were going for, all with a horrible single-player experience, and a focus on co-op that can't even be played locally sitting together on the couch. All that for the low price of 56 Canadian dollars before the additional $15 of really ugly cosmetics and a $20 DLC that isn't out yet. My disappointment is immeasurable, and I spent my whole playthrough plus redoing chapter 3 when our save broke, hoping that it wasn't that bad. Something that only worked because I love playing anything with John. But now I've come to the conclusion that it is really bad. I've spent the last few days getting progressively more upset, and now I'll be taking you through every category that I have complaints about, of which there are many. You won't hear me complain about the visuals or the story much. Truth is, the game works amazingly as a poster, and has endless compelling snapshots. If only it was fun, too. As for the story, it's vague with a base narrative you can follow and a twist at the end. I know it links to, I think, a podcast or maybe a comic, but I don't care. It needs to stand on its own. And while it does do okay story-wise, it definitely is the weakest of the games, particularly with the lead-up to the ending and the ending itself, where the others are brain-melting bangers. Now let's dive into my biggest gaming disappointment probably ever. I don't usually anticipate games or let myself get too excited about them, but I did for this game, and it was a mistake. The price. We gotta start here because it ties into other points as we go. 40 USD for a 5-hour game is something people generally don't like, but I actually don't mind. You probably shouldn't listen to me on this though, because I make money streaming games and would pay a lot more if I had to because they're an essential investment for me to make a living. But for what it's worth, I made basically no money off LN2, but happily paid the 30 USD for that also 5-hour game because it was a great experience. In my opinion, people's price complaints should stem from the game being ass. I don't agree with saying you need a certain amount of playtime hours to justify a price. That being said, why the hell is there a $15 DLC of cosmetics that are exclusively less appealing to use than the base look of the 2 characters? They should have forced you to play as one of these ugly things and sold the base skins. Not to mention that most of these aren't even new characters, just you can look like an ugly thing from the previous games. Dark 6 for $4 is okay, but still, I'm good. As for being able to buy the expansion pass now, whatever, man. I'm over 80 Canadian dollars into my 5-hour game. At least in 6 months, I'll get to play more of it and pretend that it's free. Bosses. All 4 disappointments. The bad guys or bosses of Little Nightmares I don't think were the highlight of the game until the second one, which did such an insanely good job with them that it became a mandatory expectation for any sequel to live up to. The aggressive hunter relentlessly chasing the duo, the teacher sternly demanding the attention of her students with her owl neck, and actual teacher feel with the piano, and creating probably the most iconic chase in the series. Doctor with his freaky sounds and shocking end, and finishing up with two bosses that tied into the crazy plot twists of the ending. LN3 has, the baby? It made for a good diorama to go with my superior hunter one, but very quickly she loses the impact she could have had. She's just hanging out, and you're in her way, and she's got Medusa's curse, I guess. Beyond stone time, you're not in any danger, she just follows movements. Less Little Nightmares, more like Ladybug near a toddler simulator. Also, when she catches and drops you, the game entirely loses the color palette that I really expected and was excited for the game to maintain, with the two previous games mostly sticking to a consistent feel with smooth transitions when it did change. From this point on, the game also gets really dark, even at max brightness. It never goes back to the sandy look the trailers presented, it's just forever dark now. Anyway, the climax of the baby chapter is this.
Do I need to bow and arrow this?
Don't look behind.
Oh.
What's she doing?
Does she got a sneeze?
I don't know.
That's another thing I've learned. Sometimes you just gotta wait. Sometimes you don't need to do anything.
The birds.
Oh, it's
the birds
all
got her.
Interesting. Something's protecting us.
Yeah. Very hard hitting. Definitely not a step down from literally every other encounter in the entire series. Chapter 2's boss is an obvious attempt to reinvent the teacher wheel, without anything that made the teacher work. These games don't give you boss names, but every single person who played Little Nightmares 2 came up with the same name for bosses. The hunter has a gun, traps, and pellets. The teacher has a ruler. The doctor, patience. Back to the teacher, she had a classroom, students, piano, books. LN3's teacher ripoff has papers. A lot of papers. She's an accountant, secretary, bureaucrat. You go through her offices and wait for her to walk to the next room. We died a lot here because we actually thought we had to do something, when the solution is just to hold crouch and wait for her to finish doing nothing. Basically, same thing here too. Then you go over top of her. Wow, this reminds me of another game I played. Except she can't actually reach you, and after you mess with her cameras, she gets mildly upset and goes final form. And it's incredibly obvious what's gonna happen next. I call it out. We're definitely killing this one, guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
How do you kill a spider? You squish it. She's getting squished. One uninteresting chase later. Yep. Thank God for this convenient hydraulic press that is here to squish the accountant. And doesn't make any sense that it's in this storage room. Poppy 4 actually did it better. And don't even get me started on that game. Chapter 3 is like 40% of the game. And its first half is just honest to God 45 minutes of nothing. No danger, no interesting environment, no new boss. A short combat identical to the bug one in the first chapter, and then another half hour of at least visually appealing chapter before the third boss, who is alright. Bon, go get him. He at least has some gameplay with you needing to distract him, exactly how you do the LN2 doctor and the LN1 janitor, and one unique moment where you get lowered by a rope to grab a key while he's distracted. That was a fun 20 seconds. Those 20 seconds were a highlight for me. Mind you, he also catches you, puts you in cages, and then our save broke, and we had to redo the entire shit-ass Chapter 3 with no way of fixing our save, but that's a complaint for a later section. He's okay, and his send-off is the best in the game, but that's not saying much. We land at the mansion, which is the least visually appealing chapter, and the final boss has one good moment, where you first hit the gong and the snake slides through the hallway, only for you to realize it's a foot. Then there's some lore stuff, one moment in his chase that seems like he's actually trying to catch you, and you have a final boss battle that so dramatically falls short of the two previous games in every single way. The only thing that stops you from first trying it is the fact that random debris falls on you. So it's nothing but a matter of learning 4 debris fall spots. Then you do the one thing both characters have that solves literally everything in this snooze fest. Alone hits something with the wrench, and Low shoots it. Remember this? The lady who can't handle mirrors can't break this last one, and you slowly destroy her with her own reflection. Remember this? Six has been twisted into a huge beast, and you use portals to distract her out of the way of her music box so you can destroy the obsession that's mangled her body. This time you get this uninteresting Geo dude, and he squishes himself with the walls after Alone hits something and Low shoots. Low shoots and Alone hits something. Alone hits something and Low shoots. This is all you really do in the game. Personal equipment. At first it was exciting. Giving the characters each a tool opened the door to greater gameplay variety. Just think of the new things the game could do with this expanded moveset. Except there are no new things. There already were wrenches built into the environment for you to problem solve little challenges, and they felt like Mono was using the world around him to get through the harsh world. The constant wrench just reduces the amount you interact with the levels. And the wrench only does something when it's needed. I tried hitting a ton of things that really should have reacted and could have given a purpose to always having a wrench if it meant you could interact with the world more, but there's so little. Instead, the wrench just becomes Alone's really boring half of puzzles and progression. Alone hits stuff. Low has a bow, which just replaces throwing things. Again, in the same way previous games used throwing to interact with the environment, now that's just useless. Low has a bow, and it's his boring side of puzzles. There's no aiming, you just walk up and wait for the prompt that you can shoot, then you shoot. Low can interact with the world a little more because there's some bottles and balloons that are out of reach for the wrench, but nothing besides sometimes breaking things. The bow never matters except when you need to do something that a sharp rock or spear-shaped stick on the ground is also capable of doing. Except now there's no gameplay from the drive to find that sharp rock. You've got a bow. Low shoots the bow, Alone hits with the wrench, and you wait for bosses to open doors for you. That's how the game plays out. Mechanics. There are no new mechanics in Little Nightmares 3. Just kidding, there's the umbrella. It slows your fall, and you lose it halfway through chapter 1. But there are plenty of mechanics from previous games that were removed. Swinging on ropes, which made for some really cool moments. You can just barely swing in a couple spots in the third game, but you can't. Traps? Like the bad guys here wouldn't have any snares at any point for our little dudes? They locked Low in a cell, but there's nothing like the hunter's traps or the school kids' prank buckets. Nothing? Unscripted encounters. This is huge. In LN3, if you get seen, you die. Period. There is no escaping anything at any point once you're detected. There's only one way to handle every single encounter. Nothing like the cool stealth in LN1 where you hide under counters to avoid deaths, or mannequins in LN2 where your flashlight dictates when they can move, or dodging behind rocks with the hunter. Nothing like that. Every single encounter has one solution, which is generally hold crouch and wait for the bad guy to go away. Fighting things? There are 2 small fights with minor enemies, but they're identical with no variety. 4 enemies spawn, 1 at a time, in the same spots, and you'll never guess, but Low shoots, then Alone hits them with the wrench. That leaves no room for variety. And I don't know if this is a mechanic, but the little gates and 2-handed doors are frustratingly overused in this game.
Help me. Oh, I thought that was me. I was all the way on the left because I was tugging. Okay, that sounded really bad.
It's okay, Sean. If you need a tug break, just let me know. It's only been 2 hours, but I get it. These first popped up in LN2, obviously, with now 2 characters, but each of the few times they're used, it's super impactful, well placed, and are largely Six and Mono working together to move through other people's space. So much of what makes traversal uncomfortable for the characters is that they're moving through buildings that aren't made with their little bodies in mind. And if there isn't a gap for them to squeeze through, they gotta get creative. LN3 gives the impression that every building's architect knew that two little guys needed to move around as well. So they installed doors for them in every single room. The first time you see this animation of them pulling open a vent before pulling the other through, it's sick. It's a great animation. And then you do it probably 40 more times. And the game turns a little great thing into a boring, repetitive thing. A couple times you do this interesting zipline to cross spaces, but why do they perfectly slow down at the end? It's still sloped. Does Lowe's bow come with brakes? Imagine if they zoomed uncontrollably down the zipline and bounced off the wall because they're moving through someone else's world using whatever they can. That would be so much better. Instead, the zipline again feels like it's designed for them to safely move around. LN3 fails to place you in a world where you don't belong. You can navigate just fine within it, and it honestly feels catered to little beings. Level transitions. This is a short section. They suck and don't really exist. In LN2, you shoot the hunter and your ears are ringing as you stumble away from the chaos you created and drift across the water on a door to a new land. Or even better, shift space to pull the tower that you've been watching all chapter towards you before running in. Beautiful level transitions. In LN3, you enter a mirror and teleport to who knows where. You do this twice, from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. From 3 to 4, you fly in a hot air balloon, so there is one level transition, but it's a fade to black crash land, and then you're somewhere again. Until that moment, it was very cool, so there's one. Music. Like I said, I sometimes listen to Prison Toys and other songs, and I use them in videos. I love the entire LN2 soundtrack, and it perfectly complements every intense moment. This game has reasonably nice menu music, and a nice tune in the final segment of the game. No other music at any point in the game really adds anything besides just intense beat 3 for chases. None of the hard-hitting stuff that's beautifully integrated into the other games. The music in this game feels like an afterthought. Puzzles. While not the best part of Little Nightmares games, they serve to add gameplay and build up tension to improve encounters, as well as emphasize the fact that you're navigating a place not built for you. We went through every chapter and counted how many puzzles LN3 had. Our criteria was pretty much anything that wasn't solved by Lowe shooting the bow or alone hitting with the wrench, or singular tasks that are right in front of you, like a lever at the end of a hallway. Being very generous and counting something like one player moves a box while the other stands in the right spot as a puzzle, or jumping on the gnome chair. We got 8 puzzles in the whole game. If I was being harsh on what qualifies as a puzzle, then I would count just 3. 2 in Chapter 3, the platforming circle that rises out of the ground that you need to turn to get the right orientation, and where you gotta tune the radio and pull the lamp. 3rd is in Chapter 4, when you have the backwards time doll and gotta move through different states of door openness. If you're following my math, that's no puzzles in the first half of the game. 2 in Chapter 3 because they had to put something in the hour-long nothingness between the accountant and Funtime Freddy, and 1 to make navigating the boring Chapter 4 house a little more interesting. Compare that to LN2 with more harshness. I would say Chapter 1 has no puzzles, but that's debatable. Chapter 2 has the chess puzzle and 2 stealth puzzles. Chapter 3 has the key puzzle and the mannequin puzzle. Chapter 4 has the elevator puzzle, remote mail puzzle, multiple mini TV puzzles that count if the doll counts. And my favorite, the shopping cart puzzle. Then Chapter 5 has portal puzzles that culminate in the final boss being a challenging portal baiting puzzle. That's at least 9 if you call all of the remote stuff just 1. And they take thought. You will fail a couple times. It's not, I guess this is supposed to be a puzzle, so it counts. It's a section that requires setup and brain power. Yes, a 7-year-old is able to experience Little Nightmares 3 because nothing is difficult, but a 7-year-old is not dishing out 40 USD for a 5-hour game. Bugs. There's actually not that many, and you know me, I thrive on a funny, buggy game. I love goofy game quirks so long as they don't brick your progress. I'm in the rafters above Purple Guy. He's coming into your room.
Holy shit! No! job. Thanks for the play-by-play. And he's in your room.
He's killing you. He's killing you. What?
Oh, that was scripted.
Oh.
No, I'm
Where are you?
back in the cage. I'm back in the cage.
John.
Are we serious?
Wait.
That has to be a bug. I'm back in the cage on the string.
So LN3 has a really bad bug deep into chapter 3 that bricked our progress and forced us to replay the entire chapter. When Funtime catches you, fade to black, and Lo and Alone are in cages. Alone immediately slides out of the cage, and then John, as Lo, did the same thing. Okay, makes sense. They're both pretty skinny. The guy would kill John when he landed, so we figured out that we needed to distract him by hitting down the gnome, and then he leaves the room. At that point, John dropped down from his cage. There was this weird, useless ladder on the left, and we went about our business. The gnome gets crushed, R.I.P., and then John died. Now we're back in the cages. Weird, because we'd hit a checkpoint. Weirder still is that the distraction gnome is gone. We can't make Funtime leave the room anymore. We can't progress. Reloading checkpoints didn't work, restarting the game didn't work. I even had someone send me their single-player save and tried to manually convert it to multiplayer, but that didn't work either. An hour of nothing Burger Chapter 3 later, and we were back to see how it was actually supposed to be done. Lo isn't supposed to be able to get out of his cage. I guess his bars are thicker. Once Funtime leaves the room, you're supposed to climb up the ladder as Alone and knock it down. At which point, there's a checkpoint, and you can progress as normal. This game-breaking bug is happening to probably 10% of players. I watched one person stream the game, and it happened to him as well. How do you delay a 5-hour game for a year and then have this massive of a shitty bug still in the game? It's embarrassing and not patched as of writing this. There's plenty of other bugs, like if you see your partner die, they will stand up and then blip back to their respawn point. Little immersion breaking, but whatever, I really don't mind that stuff. Single player. I played through the game solo to see if it was as bad as people were saying. And to be honest, I didn't think it was that much worse than co-op. It does turn half of your gameplay into calling your NPC to do their half of the nothingness, because the game wasn't made with any consideration for solo, and you can't switch characters at any point of the game, so too bad if you wanted to use the bow after picking Alone. The real killer here is for speedrunning, because single player is unbearable. Nothing is different except the AI controls the bot, meaning it can still die and will die if you leave it behind to say, go faster. It will also sometimes just decide to stop moving and require you reload the game. Cool. And because there's no local co-op, you can't just control both players like the It Takes Two solo run. Simply put, you're cooked. And anyone who runs this game solo can look forward to losing runs to the bot getting confused. Imagine how much better the game would be for speedrunning and normal play if you could swap characters! Like what games have been capable of for 20 years. Finally, to drive my point home, I'm gonna directly compare the first chapter of Little Nightmares 2 to 3. For reference, I think chapter 1 is 3's best chapter, and I would call chapter 1 2's second or third best chapter. I really like 2 and 5. This will show what makes 2 great, and 3 just not interesting. They both open with hints to the end of the game, but I think 2's ominous door is a lot more interesting than a mirror. I actually then prefer the first minute of 3 over 2 because the opening up to a grandiose desert is super cool. Too bad that's instantly forgotten and doesn't represent what you're about to play at all. After the first minute of 2 though, it wastes no time in giving you a hint of what you're heading towards with an ominous sack of bodies. Then 2 starts doing what I think might be 3's greatest failure. 2 has danger in normal level progression. There's tripwires obviously set by something much bigger than you. Even nature is dangerous to you, and you use the world around you to navigate these paths. I love the bear trap sections because they're fun, dangerous, and continue to leave breadcrumbs that you're heading towards a deadly hunter. You know the chapter's boss before you even see him. Back to 3, there is nothing. Dangerous before you meet the baby, you can hardly even die. And the stone people along the way don't specifically hint at anything ominous ahead, except that, you know, Medusa is running around somewhere. Chapter 1 has no side risk to it. except the 4 bug battle, and I already complained about how Baby is underwhelming. Back to 2, you enter a house that doesn't belong to you. Follow a faint music box to find someone just like you and you rescue them with what's around you. She runs away and you two learn you need each other. All the while, you can hear noises in the house because you're not alone. And it's finally time to meet what the whole chapter has been preparing you for. The Hunter delivers. Mono and Six push open the only 2-person door in the chapter, and it's used perfectly as you stumble out the other side because this is not something you're used to moving around in, and brother bursts out and explodes everything you try to hide behind. The rest of the chapter is you and Six being hunted, not, yeah, you see the baby, but then you don't for a while until you two run into each other again. Long time no see. You get to one last desperate sprint avoiding the hunter and enter a small cabin where Mono and Six's newfound teamwork is put to the test. You steady a shotgun together and... they help each other up and push away from that hell. Banger music plays as they come up on the towering buildings and step off towards whatever comes next. Your final encounter with the baby involves hiding behind this rattle, then this box, then the baby is chased off by birds, and then you teleport to the next chapter. There was no danger except the baby being too curious, and there were no memorable moments outside the baby, which still falls way short of what the Hunter delivers. Now, LN3 will have DLC. It might be better. It probably won't be. Reanimal looks great, and I hope it captures the Little Nightmares feel, but I don't know if it will fill the void in my gamer heart that this game left me. I hope this review is able to properly capture the game's faults, because I know many of you who play the game feel the same way I do, but it is hard to put into words. So much of what makes Little Nightmares 1 and 2 good is really subtle. It's an atmospheric horror game. I can't simply say that the jump scares were bad or something. That's not what makes these games, and I put a lot of thought into how I wanted to present this. If you're thinking of buying this game, I wouldn't recommend it. It would be a pretty solid 10 Canadian dollar game, if they added couch co-op, that is. There's better multiplayer games on the horizon, and I'm gonna forget Little Nightmares 3 as quickly as I can. I'm just gonna sit right here. Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe slightly forwards.
Yeah, just a little bit.